The Yankees lose.
Welcome back to another edition of Six Borough Sports, your home for New York and South Florida sports. And before we get started, I'd like to please remind everyone to like, comment, and to subscribe. We're trying to get to at least 100 subscribers. Thank you so much. Today, we got to talk about the freaking New York Yankees. They lost the World Series to the Los Angeles Dodgers in 5 games. I don't think that the bigger deal is that the Dodgers won. The Dodgers were clearly the superior team. They have a much deeper lineup. They had a crazy performance from Freddie Freeman. 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, I believe. He was all over the place. He by far and away was the MVP of the series. But I think the more interesting thing to talk about is sort of game 5. I think game 5 really, the other games were just, okay, the Dodgers are a better team. Game 5 was a microcosm of the inherent problem with the Yankees, and that is they compensate for certain deficiencies by overcompensating, and then they have deficiencies to go with it. So here's a great example. Um, Giancarlo Stanton. Giancarlo Stanton is a great home run hitter. He gets injured, but he had a great postseason. He was not the problem on the team, but he can't run, and that cost the Yankees a run. Now you can argue whether or not he should have like ran the ball or ran on Hernandez on that throwdown, but it was close. It was closer than it should have been. He shouldn't have ran. I know the Yankees are desperate for a run, but the Yankees, they have players that do good things, but at a detriment to another area, and that causes problems. And that 5th inning, I think, was a really good example of it with Garrett Cole pitching lights out. He pitched lights out in game 1. They took him out early. He was pitching lights out in game 5. And then, he helped contribute to that error with Rizzo. Um, I'm going to go towards 50-50 on that one. Rizzo could have played the ball better, but Cole needs to be prepared. Actually, I'm going to do 60-40. Cole should have been at first. Um, and Rizzo, that's just basic fundamentals. You need to be at first, Cole, in a playoff game. Um, and that was a really bad error. The Volpe error to third, throwing to Jazz. I'm not going to blame Jazz because you're throwing to a very inexperienced third baseman, not an inexperienced baseball player, an inexperienced third baseman. And again, it's like Jazz is a great hitter. He's a great runner. He's a great fielder. He's not a perfect fielder, but he makes plays and he makes mistakes because he plays out of position because teams just think they can throw him anywhere you want, and you can't do that. And the Yankees paid for that. So, and throwing to third was not the play. But Volpe had a good series, so I'm not even going to give him that much of a hard time on that. But again, it just shows they overcompensate in certain areas, and then it comes back to bite them in others. For Judge, this is all. I'm just going to go back to the 5th inning, which was like these plays were in the 5th inning, but to go back to Judge in that 5th inning, making the error on that play, you can't do that. You can't do that at home in a World Series playoff game. He was finally starting to hit, and that was a scary thing. The Dodgers were like dominating the series because Judge was just not hitting. And then the last game, game 4, Judge starts to wake up, and they're like, okay, Judge is starting to wake up. They blow out the Dodgers. Great. This is it. This is their chance to make a little bit of a comeback. You're still down 3-0. I'm not confident that the Dodgers are going to blow it. They'd have to do something ridiculous. They didn't do that. But Judge has to make that play. And he made a great outfield catch earlier in the game. But that play, that kills you. In that inning, the Yankees had 5 unearned runs. The other 2 runs to make it 7 runs were sac flies. So the Dodgers essentially didn't score any runs off of like pure hitting. They just did it because of mistakes and they did it because of like on base positioning and sacrifices. But in this game, just the amount of like errors, there was just weird mistakes, like the judge drop, the Rizzo and Cole not covering first, the Volpe error to the fielder's choice error to Jazz. There was a balk on throwing over to first too many times, and there was a catcher's interference. And I'm like, what is going on here? It's very un-Yankee like. Like this is the kind of game that I expect from the Mets, the Padres, uh, some of those other the Cleveland Guardians of the Royals, those kind of teams, not the Yankees. So I'm just interested in seeing like how they try to adjust this because the past few years, Cashman and Boone and everybody, they were like, yeah, we had a rough season, but we made the playoffs, we had a good record, and everybody's coming back. Everyone's going to be back in terms of management. I would be shocked if they break it apart now. But like, are they going to get Soto back? Because I think the Mets are going to be the highest bidder. I think that's just the fact. The Mets are going to come in and say, "What are the Yankees offering you? We'll offer you more." And the Yankees can keep upping their bid, and I think the Mets are going to match and go higher. And the Mets played the Dodgers better. They got blown out, but the Mets swung back. And on top of it, the Mets are going to be adding more. I don't know how much more the Yankees could add if they get Soto. We got another year under Stearns, and the young players are going to get better on the Mets. We got more coming up. We got Mauricio coming up. So if the Mets, if Soto wants to play for the Mets and he wants the money, I think he's coming to the Mets. Now I don't know if he actually wants to play for the Mets. That's the real question. That's the $600 million plus question. Does Soto want to play for the Mets? But I think this really hurt the Yankees' chances for getting him because it's like, okay, well, all things being equal, he would be a Yankee. Well, all things aren't going to be equal. I think the Mets are going to offer more money, and the Mets can make a case that they're trending in the right direction. The Yankees had a very easy path to the World Series and then showed up at the World Series and didn't really show up. Um, I thought that series was going back to LA. I was like, oh, it's going to go back to LA. We'll play, Dodgers will probably win game 6. And then the Dodgers smelled blood in the water in that 5th inning. Um, yeah, the Yankees make a lot of bad mistakes. They really do. Um, which is shocking because, being a Met fan that grew up in New York during the 90s and seeing them, they beat the Mets in the World Series in 2000. I actually was at game 3. It was the one the Mets won. Freezing cold. I was in the last row. But to see them make it just that's not I hate to use the word, it's not Yankee like. But I had a friend of mine, he's from New York and he's not really a baseball fan, but some of his family are Yankee fans and he's kind of paying attention to the game. The Yankees are up 5-0. And he was like, oh, the Yankees, they won the last game and they're doing great. And he texts me, he's like, yeah, here comes the Yankees, something to that effect. And I was like, let's wait. Let's wait because I saw this. I saw this show before when the Dodgers played the Mets. Like no lead is safe, and lo and behold, no lead is safe. Um, but I also think some of this speaks to the path that the Yankees took. When I saw it was like the Yankees versus the AL Central in the playoffs after the Astros and the Orioles were eliminated, I was like, this is done. The Yankees are going to the World Series. It's just a question of who they're going to play. Is it going to be the Mets? Is it going to be the Dodgers? Could be the Padres. But the Mets and Padres are teams I will look out for next year. But the Yankees have a ton of questions. Like there's Soto's a free agent, Cole is a free agent. You got to keep Cole. I mean, he made that big mistake. But if I told you, and just to go a little bit on tangent about Cole, if I told you at the beginning of the series, Cole's going to give you probably like 9 like great innings, no, very little or like sub 2 ERA, whatever. He's going to give you 9 great innings, and Shohei Ohtani is going to be largely controlled, and there's going to be Volpe will have a grand slam, and Game 5, the Dodgers will only have 2 runs off of sac flies. A pivotal, could be considered a pivotal Game 5. Usually, Game 5 is a pretty important game. The Dodgers will have the only earned runs they have is 2 earned off of sac flies. You're like, oh, okay. Based on that, I think the Yankees probably had a pretty good series. No, they had a terrible series. I mean, Game 4, the Dodgers kind of gave up after the Yankees got that late lead because they were just like, we can load up the pitching and do whatever else we need to do for the last few games. You got Yamamoto coming back. Um, and that was the other thing. They didn't pitch Cole in Game 4, and then they couldn't bring him back. I know. He said he wasn't ready, and if he's not ready, he shouldn't pitch. But they didn't bring back Cole, so they couldn't bring back Cole for Game 7 unless they really overextended him. Which, if it went to a Game 7, you would throw everything in the kitchen sink as a team. But yeah, just really bad. They stranded a lot of runners, which is another problem with the Mets. They stranded a lot of runners. The Dodgers do a good job of making teams strand runners. So, um, yeah, you can't be stranding runners. That's the lesson for the postseason. Do not strand runners, please. But that's it for this week. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll probably do a free agency video, I'm sure. But thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.